Because Elden Ring wasn't hard enough, I challenged all of you to kill as many bosses as you could in 1 hour from a brand new game. There are over 150 bosses in Elden Ring, and each of them are spread across its vast open world. In spite of this, over 150 of you accepted my challenge, and some of you even got a little creative. This is a story of the best 2 attempts. It should go without saying that this was not your average speedrun, and it was far from easy. Most speedruns require you to go from point A to point B as quickly as possible, but this one wasn't so straightforward. You could take any path you wanted as long as you were killing bosses along the way, and the rules of this challenge were simple. Because the game is so new, I didn't place many restrictions at all, and I thought it would be interesting to see how broken the game was on release. The most notable rules banned things like Hoarfrost Stomp, and this was done to help encourage run diversity, but you were allowed to play on any patch or platform, and glitches were allowed. The complete rule set is in the description, but those 3 rules had the biggest impact on the runs themselves. With that said, there is a lot on the line here. This video features a race between the 2 top runners, and I'm sending first place $2,500. Even if you aren't a world-class speedrunner though, there will be $1,000 worth of consolation prizes for people who entered but didn't necessarily win, and those names will be revealed at the end of the video. The only reason I'm able to give away so much money is because of the hundreds of thousands of subscribers that I have.
Yeah, right. No, dude, it's because of me, the guy giving you all the money.
Yes, I was getting to that part. Idleon is an amazing game. I actually play it myself. In fact, I'm the one who reached out to Lava Flame, the game's creator, to do this integration. Just like Elden Ring, Idleon is a game where you create multiple characters and take on bosses in a huge multiplayer world. Big games like this usually require tons of hours grinding, but Idleon avoids this by letting you have your characters work on things while the game is offline, hence the name Idleon. Lava Flame made this game by himself 2 years ago in his bedroom, and it already has over 100,000 reviews on the App Store.
And that's just Android. Don't forget the 7,000 reviews on the Steam store.
Okay, did you want to do this ad segment or?
I'm sorry, carry on.
The music in the game is great, the dialogue is funny, the animations are gorgeous, and the reviews are outstanding. It's constantly being updated and has a very active Discord community, and Lava Flames even found his way into my own. Downloading the game is a free way of helping me do more challenges just like this one because Lava Flame's the one who provided the prize money for this video. Use my link below to show your support. Forsa is a god gamer. He's a well-established speedrunner who's been in the scene for a while and has tons of experience competing in challenges just like this one. As of this video, he currently has the world record for the any percent glitchless category in Dark Souls 3, and if that wasn't impressive enough, he also plays on keyboard. While everybody else was busy rushing patches for his +7 spear or cosplaying as a Ninja Turtle, Forsa had other plans in mind. The most important question of this run is how much time should you spend upgrading a weapon before taking on the gauntlet of bosses? And initially, Forsa's answer to that question was hardly any. In his early runs, he started off as a samurai and used its starting weapon, the Uchigatana, for the entire run. This katana's inherent blood loss effect made it very easy to take out bosses quickly, and the plan was to just rush Limgrave tunnels, collect some resources, and then kill bosses for the entirety of the run after upgrading your weapon to +2. It was a solid strategy. It allowed him to focus on optimizing his boss fights, and Forsa used this interactive map to put together a route that let him reach an outstanding 31 bosses. Despite having such a respectable number though, Forsa knew that there was room for improvement. More specifically, he knew that the katana was slow. The damage was good early on. In fact, it was so good that you could actually beat the tutorial boss with it. Thanks to the weapon skill, you can repeatedly poise break the Grafted Scion, and that gave Forsa the edge early on when most of the other competitors were just jumping off the cliff. Later in the run, however, the weapon really started to fall off, and this made certain fights go on for much longer than they needed to. The main problem with the Uchigatana isn't necessarily the weapon itself, but the materials required to upgrade it. If you're unfamiliar, weapons in Elden Ring can follow two upgrade paths: regular smithing stones and somber smithing stones. Weapons that rely on regular smithing stones can go all the way up to plus 25, but upgrading them beyond plus 6 requires traveling to some pretty far places, and doing so just wasn't an optimal use of time when most of the easy bosses that you wanted to kill were in Limgrave. This got Forsa thinking. He needed a stronger weapon that was not only located in Limgrave, but also reinforced by somber smithing stones since they were the abundant ones and nearby. Ideally, this weapon should also inflict blood loss and bonus points if you could get it by defeating a boss. After doing a bit of research, there was one weapon that checked all of those boxes: the Bloodhound's Fang. The Bloodhound's Fang is a phenomenal weapon which can be obtained by the Bloodhound Knight at the Forlorn Hound Everjail. In addition to its blood loss, the weapon has an amazing skill which inflicts respectable damage even when one-handed, and you're probably wondering, why would someone want to one-hand this weapon if you could two-hand it for more damage? Wouldn't that let you kill the bosses faster? Well, in order to answer that, I have to explain a glitch related to an Ash of War called Royal Knight's Resolve. Royal Knight's Resolve, or RKR, normally applies a massive buff to the next attack with that weapon. But in version 1.02 of the game, if you equip RKR on an offhand weapon and activate the buff that way, then it'll also increase the damage inflicted by your main weapon. Since you aren't doing any damage with a weapon that actually has RKR on it, you're able to keep the buff for about 8 seconds even after your next attack. To put it simply, using RKR in your offhand results in situations like this for the weapon in your main hand. With this newfound weapon, route, and resolve, Forsa flew through the game. He was now up to 33 bosses, and with a time of 59:32, he knew 34 was possible. What he didn't know, however, was that somebody else had already beaten him to it. That person's name was Spicee. Spicee is the new kid on the block. He's only been speedrunning for about a year now, and he got his start running games like Deathloop and Resident Evil, where he's managed to secure multiple world records. If that wasn't enough, he also has the world's first sub 28-minute Elden Ring any percent speedrun, which at the time of this video is now down to 19 minutes. Knowing the any percent speedrun route made this challenge very intuitive for Spicee. Because of it, he already knew about RKR and how to obtain the somber smithing stones necessary to upgrade a weapon to plus 7 quickly. In the final days before the deadline, Forsa and Spicee went back and forth, crushing each other's times while adding boss after boss to their respective runs. Both of them were tied at 38 kills, and the tiebreaker was whoever could do it the fastest or reach 39. What we're about to watch are the last runs that each of them actually completed. As expected, Forsa starts off his run as a samurai, picking up the golden seed as his gift, and when he gets to the Grafted Scion, the unsheathed weapon skill is going to set him up for a riposte. He does get clipped toward the end of the Scion spin attack, but he recovers nicely, and that'll add one boss to his score just a minute and a half into the run. Thanks to the katana, he kills the soldier of Godrick in just 4 seconds, and as soon as he makes it to the outside world, he activates this grace before heading over to the Gatefront ruins so that he can get his mount. Torrent is obviously necessary in this run, not just because he lets us move fast, but also because his double jump is required for some tricky shortcuts that these guys will have to pull off later. Here you'll notice that Forsa starts toggling his weapon. This makes it so that his stamina begins to recover sooner, and it's really only necessary if you're in combat, since that's the only time your stamina will deplete while sprinting. After picking up this golden seed, he activates this grace and heads northwest, where he'll attempt the first of 3 very close jumps. Landing it brings him to this church where he's going to pick up this sacred tear, and the goal right now is to make it to the academy as soon as possible so he can gain access to the Volcano Manor where those somber smithing stones are. Forsa is making really good time right now, and eventually he makes it to this portal which takes him to the entrance of the academy. He doesn't have the key to get in though. In fact, the key is actually located right next to a giant dragon nearby, and the fastest way to get there on horseback is to jump off this bridge. Forsa attempts to jump and doesn't get it. When he respawns, he goes for the jump again and when Spicee starts his run, he also kills the Grafted Scion, and the Soldier of Godrick doesn't stand a chance. He picks up Torrent and the Golden Seed, and his first jump is just as successful as Forsa's. Rather than heading to the church though and picking up the sacred tear, Spicee makes a stop at the Liurna Highway South Grace and initiates a wrong warp by using the Memory of Grace item and fast traveling at the exact same time. This is where the game gets confused. I'm simplifying here, but since it doesn't know whether to return you to your last location or the location you just chose, it just ends up putting you underground. Quitting out and going back into the game prompts it to put you in a safe location, and in this case that location is the Putrefied Ruins, which is right next to the waygate that takes you to the academy. When the new kid goes for his jump, he gets it right first try, and heading west from here will bring you over to the Glintstone dragon that's guarding the key. Spicee escapes the encounter but picks up this grace so that he can come back later before warping back to the academy where he'll descend into its lowest levels. Attacking just before you land allows for a slightly quicker recovery because in this game you can no longer roll to negate the hard fall recovery animation. Once Spicee reaches the bottom, he's going to block this Iron Virgin's attack, and according to patches, letting it grab you will take you directly to the Erdtree. He's lying though. In actuality, you're taken to Volcano Manor, and as soon as Spicee arrives, he does something Spicee himself and jumps directly into this pool of lava. Shortly after surviving that, he picks up the Somber Smithing Stones, and while he's in the area, he's going to take on the Godskin Noble. There's a trick you can do for this boss where if you traverse the mist at maximum distance, then his AI won't activate and you're able to kill him without having to worry about retaliation. The easiest way to set this up is to walk up to the mist, backstep, and then punch. But even with this setup, it can still be kind of hard to do. Spicee actually misses it twice and ends up losing much of the time that he gained over Forsa. But once he finally does pull it off, he's still in the lead, and you can see how the Godskin Noble just stands there while he finishes him. After this boss, Spicee activates the Grace, and then he does something I don't necessarily agree with. He accepts Melina's invitation into the Round Table Hold, and wastes valuable time watching this cutscene where she slowly grabs your hand and takes you over. But you can actually avoid this. It doesn't seem like it since the game only gives you the accept option, but in reality, if you just press the cancel button, then you can level up here without ever getting warped. Third time's a charm for Forsa, who eventually lands his jump, and after stealing the academy key from the dragon, he'll grab this grace and make his way over into the volcano as well. He's able to break the boss's AI on his second try, and then Forsa actually declines Melina's invitation, opting to level up here instead. At this point of the run, it is finally time to pick up Royal Knight's Resolve, which is conveniently located in a fireplace nearby. After pushing this lever and jumping up this machinery, Forsa obtains his last Somber Smithing Stone from this area, and then he's going to head down the corridor and grab RKR. Now he just needs a weapon to put it on, and it's worth noting that if you use RKR with a weapon that you don't have the necessary stats to wield, then you can get the buff without consuming any FP at all. For that reason, he warps back to the Grace where he first got Torrent and loots the flail from this chest. After that, he's going to head down into this oddly placed dungeon and pick up the whetstone knife so that he can actually put the Ash of War on his new weapon. Sitting at this Grace lets him equip RKR, and now the only thing left to do was to pick up the Bloodhound's Fang before reinforcing it to +7. The remaining materials necessary can be easily purchased from the blacksmith EG found north of the academy, and with this final puzzle piece in place, our runners were ready to destroy this game. Up until this point, Forsa and Spicee's routes were nearly identical, consisting mostly of bosses found in Limgrave. The two most problematic ones were the Royal Revenant and the Deathrite Bird, who ended countless runs. And for Spicee in particular, the Revenant contributed to over 5 hours worth of resets. As a result, Spicee decided that it was best to save this boss for the end, when he had more points and vigor. But Forsa did the exact opposite and took it on early. The Royal Revenant is extremely fast and does a ridiculous amount of damage at this point in the game. It's fastest to fight it on foot, but doing so can get you instantly killed, so Forsa immediately jumps on horseback, and right away he's taken down to about half HP.
Mais ça buff sur l'attaque depuis 10 000 ans en plus.
Forsa lost a lot of time here, and you could tell that he was not too happy about it. Despite how similar they were, the last few bosses of their runs decided everything. At 32 bosses, Spicee takes on the Rune Bear with a 10-second lead, and his fight belongs in a textbook. Forsa, however, wasn't as fortunate, and even though he's one boss ahead, this Rune Bear was determined to waste his time.
Oh dommage, ça c'est pas de chance. Oh t'es sérieux. Oh là 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 là. Ah c'était mauvais ça.
Heading west takes us to the catacombs, where both runners completely destroy this shade, and Spicee's Erdtree Avatar fight is flawless. Forsa's is almost as good, starting off really strong right up until he gets caught by this attack. And in the neighboring tunnels, this scaly boss dies in just 2 hits. Now things are down to the wire. Thanks to the time he saved in his Rune Bear and Erdtree Avatar fights, Spicee is more than capable of catching up, and it is anybody's game at this point. When he takes on the ancient hero, it jumps back and goes for an attack, but Spicee's weapon skill lets him avoid it completely. A few more R1s finishes him off, and then he's going to make his way over to the southern cave to take on Miranda. This boss is fairly easy as long as you can avoid getting poisoned, and he does. Once he beats Miranda, he fast travels north and enters these ruins to take on the Royal Revenant.
I'm staying literally full health this whole time.
The extra vigor comes in handy, and that fight goes much better than expected, giving Spicee just under a minute to race over to the final boss for number 39.
Fuck, man.
Unfortunately, he isn't able to kill the bird in time, but that still leaves him with an amazing 38 boss kills in 59 minutes and 8 seconds. With 3 bosses remaining and 3 minutes left in his run, can Forsa hit 39? In his ancient hero fight, it opens with the same attack, and Forsa makes short work of it. He enters the Miranda fight with less than 2 minutes remaining and kills it in under 10 seconds. At this point in the run, Forsa's heart is racing. On your screen, you can actually see that he's approaching 130 beats per minute. He knows that this boss is the only thing standing between him and $2,500. With about a minute remaining, the God Gamer takes on the final boss of his run.
Ouf, ça passe. c'est fait. Oh, aïe aïe. Ça passe. 39 boss, les amis. En 59 minutes 39.
In the end, Forsa came out on top winning first place and Spicee came in a very close second. Both of these runners are amazing and stream all the time, so you should definitely check them out. You can find their information in the description below. In case you're wondering, the sum of Forza's best splits was 56 minutes and 49 seconds, which means that it may be possible to add 3 or maybe even 4 additional bosses to the end of these runs. Out of the 154 submissions I received, I'd like to take some time to acknowledge the ones that I found interesting. The first is the Ninja Turtle cosplay from earlier. I thought this was highly appropriate considering the fact that they used a katana the entire time. The second is a run submitted by Dexa, who defeated 30 bosses on the most current patch, which was very impressive since they couldn't use the RKR glitch because it was patched. This means they had to fight every boss the old-fashioned way. The third winner was submitted by a runner named Shakazalu, who got the majority of their kills without using bleed, opting to go for a much cooler take in Taker's Flames instead. Fourth is Slowbee, who killed 10 bosses but had the most interesting commentary. And the final prize goes to a runner by the name of Young Breezy God, who killed exactly 1 boss. Yes, you heard that correctly. 1 boss. And I know this may sound facetious, and there's a good chance that they were trolling, but their run was actually pretty inspiring. They started by picking the most difficult class, the Wretch, and after getting destroyed by the Scion, the rest of their run is spent taking on the Soldier of Godrick. I counted and they died over 60 times. They tried everything: blocking, weapon skills, running, jumping, punching, glitching themselves, glitching the soldier, until eventually there were many people who said that this was their first ever attempt at speedrunning, and some of you even said that this challenge inspired you to go into content creation. Whatever your reason was, if attempting this showed you that you were capable of doing more than you initially thought, then at the risk of sounding cheesy, I think that's amazing in its own right. One of my goals is to eventually give away $10,000 in a video just like this one, and if you want to help me reach that goal, then consider joining my Patreon. Becoming a patron helps me increase the prize pool in these videos, and you also get access to a lot of behind the scenes stuff like interviews, the video script, and other exclusive bits of lore that went into making this video. If all of that is too much to ask, then just subscribe. It's free.
Yeah, but more importantly, don't forget to download Idleon, today's super cool sponsor. Okay, if I'm not careful, you're gonna actually put one of these in there.
That is definitely going in the video.